Everybody is familiar with the hashtag Black Lives Matter. There's another hashtag floating around out there on Twitter, hashtag Slavery Matters. And obviously, Black lives do matter, and questions of slavery do matter. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. Now, unless you've been living under that proverbial rock, you've seen attacks on symbols related to slavery. Statues of Confederate generals came down. Okay, directly related to Confederacy and slavery, understood. Andrew Jackson, they tried to take him down. Nothing to do with the Civil War, but he was a slave owner. Thomas Jefferson, same thing. George Washington, same thing. Declaration of Independence, same thing. Related to slavery. Constitution of the United States, 3/5 clause, related to slavery. All these things are under attack, along with things that have nothing to do with support for slavery. A statue of an elk, the statue of Ulysses S. Grant. I guess, well, his wife, I think her family owned slaves, so who knows? I don't know what the thinking or lack thereof of some of these protesters is. But anything related to slavery is coming under attack. Gone with the Wind, portrayal of slavery, gone. Birth of a Nation, forget it, canceled. One of the things you won't find if you go out looking for them are books written before the American Civil War in support of slavery. After all, there was a debate over slavery before the Civil War. It began decades before the Civil War. And there were two sides. Now, obviously, these two sides were never able to solve it, no matter how they came at it, from political perspective, religious, moral, ethical, humanistic, however you want to look at it, they failed. So that's why we ended up with a Civil War. We solved it militarily, at least getting rid of the institution of slavery. You can't solve questions of racism with a war, but you can get rid of an institution, which we did, in fact, too. But those books are almost impossible to find. I mean, you have to go out, maybe a used bookstore here or there, or some old library, you may find one of these books if they haven't been removed. If you go to Amazon, you're not going to find them. What you will find are the books that teachers use, which have selections from these books and selections from the books of abolitionists or essays from the two, and then they compare and contrast. So the students get some idea of what the debate was about or how the debate was functioning or not functioning is basically what the end story was, because it didn't work. But what you won't find, if you go on Amazon and you search for pro-slavery books, you're not going to find any. Because no publisher in his or her right mind would publish a book advocating slavery today. And if some publisher did, certainly Amazon wouldn't carry it. I'm not saying there aren't things like that floating around. They're run off on copy machines and put out by white supremacist groups or stuff like that. I'm sure they're out there somewhere. But you're not going to see, Scribner's publishing. I don't even know if they're still in business. So much change with publication. But if you look at publishing, you're not going to see a McGraw-Hill publish a book advocating slavery. And you're certainly, if they did it for some reason, you know what would happen to them. And certainly Amazon won't carry it. So all that's gone. All that's been canceled. And, you can argue that that's pretty good. We don't need books advocating slavery because that's certainly not where we want to go as a country. But you actually can go on Amazon today or into any half-assed bookstore in the country and find a book that advocates slavery. Find a book that actually does more than that. It actually argues that slavery and a system of slavery and the rules of slavery came from Almighty God himself. That's right. These books are out there. You can find them in Amazon, in English, and in a variety of other languages. And the advocacy for slavery in this book attracts 1 billion people around the planet. They see this as a central book to their belief system. This book goes into great detail on slaves. when you can take them, how you can take them, what you do with captured adult males, basically kill them, what you can do with children, what you can do with women, how you can take them as sex slaves, and if you do, how long you have to wait before you rape them. All this is in the book, and all this is reputedly the direction of Almighty God. It's all out there, and you can order it on Amazon, believe it or not. Hashtag slavery matters. Well, maybe some forms of slavery matter. Just like some Black lives matter more than other Black lives, some systems of slavery seem to matter more than other systems of slavery. The same kind of hypocrisy. Now, at this point, you probably have some inkling of the book that I'm talking about and what group it is adheres to this book, follows this book. At this point, you probably also have some idea of why I'm not saying the words, not mentioning the title of this book, the author of the book, which is even more peculiar, or any of those things. But why? Why are all these other books banned? Why are statues of George Washington being taken down? But this book seems unchallengeable. Nobody's calling for the removal of this book from Amazon or from bookstores. Nobody's calling for closing the buildings where the adherents to this theory congregate. Nobody's calling for any of that. Why is it? Is it hypocrisy? Is it intersectionality, which we hear so much about? That these groups all have to hang together no matter what the issues are between them? That's probably part of it. Or is it just what we see with Black Lives Matter? Though what makes a Black Life Matter is being killed by a cop, preferably a white cop. If you get gunned down in the street by some gangbanger, your life doesn't matter, or it certainly matters less. And it's the same with slavery. Slavery matters, but different systems of slavery are not equal. Some people are very upset about our system of slavery, but don't seem to even question the fact that there are other systems of slavery active in the world today. I mean, just look at a map of slavery around the world as it exists today. I mean, we may have eliminated slavery in the West, but it's running rampant the rest of the world. I mean, there were a little over 4 million slaves in 1861 when the Civil War began. There are estimates vary from 20 to 40 million people enslaved today around the world. And if you look at the map that I posted, and you can see it, oddly enough, where you see the most evidence of slavery is not in the West. It's basically everywhere else in the world. And look at the areas of the map that seem the darkest, showing that there's more slavery there than in other places. You can draw your own conclusions. Just as it is with Black Lives Matter, this whole question of slavery matters is a political point. It's not a question of dealing with slavery. There's plenty of slavery in the world today to deal with. Why are we worried about slavery 160 years ago when we have slavery right now? I mean, there are people enslaved in this country right now. There are people enslaved all over the world right now. There are Africans being enslaved in Libya. We know that. Why are the people at Slavery Matters not worried about that? Why are they worried about George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or something that somebody did? Now, I know people will tell you, I've heard this argument that, you know, this other book that I'm talking about, that I'm not naming, there's lots of things in there, and the parts about slavery are small. They're just, you know, limited verses here and there. And that's true. But other than the Declaration of Independence, the one line, all men are created equal, which, you know, looks hypocritical in retrospect, that's one line in a 3-page document. What about the Constitution and the 3/5 clause? Well, that's one section in a much larger document. So you can make the same argument for American documents, but Nobody cares about that. It's in there. They got to go. They should be changed. We should be ashamed of our history and everything along with it. But nobody's telling these other people to reform their book or to get rid of it, shut down the places where they congregate, destroy their own past because it involves so much slavery. Nobody's asking for that. That's because they're using this argument, just like the Black Lives Matter argument. It's all about power, political power. They want power in 2020. They want to destroy Donald Trump. They want to destroy his followers. And they want to make sure that nobody like Donald Trump, nobody who doesn't follow the democratic progressive ideal ever gets power in this country again. They want to shut everybody down and shut everything down so that there's no challenge to their rule. That's what it's about. So they're very selective when they look at black lives. Which ones matter, which ones don't. George Floyd matters. Some little 3-year-old girl gets, or it was a boy who gets shot in the back of his dad's car, takes a bullet in the back. You know his name. They don't matter. And it's the same with slavery. We had a system of slavery here. It was terrible. It was atrocious. It was immoral. You name it. It's gone. But there's a much longer, larger system of slavery with its own book. And it's still around. It's still being sold on Amazon. I mean, imagine going to Amazon and finding a book advocating slavery in the United States. So like I said before, it's never going to happen. But this book's available, readily available, multiple editions. Name the language that you want. If you do leave a comment on this video, and I hope that people will, I always do, please be circumspect, because really hostile, negative comments will attract the attention of the YouTube censors, and they won't censor the commenters, they'll censor me. So I appreciate it if you're circumspect when you post your comments. If you like the video, do please leave a comment. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button so you'll know next time I post a new video. And until that next time, I am out of here.